Into Creative are joined today by Paul Simpson, musician and founding member of the Teardrops Explodes, Care, Sky and the Wild Swans, and also a solo artist in his own right. Paul has recently written and published his memoir, Revolutionary Spirit. Here it is, through Jawbone Books. So, Paul, how's it going?
Good, thank you. I say good. This time last week I fell downstairs. I was half asleep.
Oh God.
I fell downstairs from the top to the bottom. So you have to forgive me. I'm on some quite heavy duty painkillers, and so if I get if I sit too long, I might have to just
Right.
have a little stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Hopefully no broken bones.
No, but I've done something. You know when you kid yourself that you're okay.
Yeah.
And I'm good for most of the day, and then as I get tired towards the evening, it gets really unbearable. So I'm gonna have to see someone at some point. I'm just pretending it's okay.
Yeah. Hopefully not too bad. But right, let's just sort of kick into it. So the book, Revolutionary Spirit, it's been out for a little while now, certainly in the UK, and I think you had a US launch reasonably recently. What's it been like just in the run up to finishing the book and actually then getting it out there as, I guess, almost like your baby? It's out now, you've done it. What's the reaction been?
It's been amazing. Like it's really surprised me. I knew the kind of party faithful, I knew Wild Swans fans would kind of buy it and like it, but I've been overwhelmed really by the response. I mean, it's on its third print. It only came out December the 5th. So yeah, it's doing really well. I've only had positive responses, which is kind of amazing. And I don't mean that in a fishing for compliments way, but because of some of the content is a bit out there, and I haven't had any pushback against that. And I was expecting a little bit. But such were so far, it's all been really positive. And of course, it took so long. People think I've been writing it for 20 years because I told them 20 years ago I'd started. But the reality is, I just got it together in the last 2 years, really. Because 20 years ago, when I told people I was going to do it, I didn't really know how to write. And I chose the most difficult sort of tense to write in, which is the historical present tense. I mean, because I can't remember. I think when I was a kid, I remember reading a book that was written that way, and I didn't understand about tenses, but I just felt so engaged with the story. I was looking through the protagonist's eyes straight away, and I just thought, I'm going to do that. And a few people advised me against it as well. People with experience, fellow authors and things. But I just went with my gut on it. And I'm glad I did, really, because I think, again, no one's really commenting on that, but they are saying, oh, I love it, really, really engrossing. But of course, if you write in the first person, historical present tense, it denies you any reflection.
Yeah.
So if you'll notice that the book's made up of lots of stories, and hardly any of the stories really resolve. I build up to a practical stage in the Philippines, first time in ever, to the biggest crowd I've ever played to. But I leave us in the wings about to go on. I never actually finished the story because I just think it's more interesting.
Yeah.
And you'll tell by a later piece where my head's at. So you'll sort of read between the lines, So it felt fantastic to find, as you say, it was like pregnant. It was like carrying it around for a couple of years, and it's lovely. It's also, the book subtitle, "A Post-Book Exorcism." Originally I needed a subtitle because there's a documentary going to come out this year of the same name about the sort of Liverpool music scene in the 70s and 80s. So I needed a subtitle, just apart from anything else, just to separate it from that. And I just thought, post-punk is the kind of the majority of my life has been informed by those times. But the exorcism bit was really, I just thought it was kind of a cool title. But I now know that's exactly what it was. It was a sort of jettisoning of this massive kind of baggage I've been carrying on my back. And I do feel liberated since publication. I am doing, I wasn't going to do this, but I was going to write a novel next, which I've started on. But I actually left 3 of my best stories out of the last volume by mistake.
Okay.
So my editor at Drummond, it's called Tom Seabrook, who wrote a book, Bowie in Berlin. It's very, very good in itself. And so at the end, when I sent him the book piecemeal, I was driving him mad with it. He didn't get one document. He just got lots and lots of bits. And the day I was sending him those stories, those final 3 stories, I just typed Tom to my email, and it went to another Tom. It went to a Tom in Liverpool, and I didn't realize till it was far too late when the finished book was kind of presented to me. I went, hang on a minute, where's the story about Nico? What's the story about Paul McCartney? And Tom went, I don't know what you're talking about. Now I went through my emails, went, oh my God. And the guy who got them didn't alert me. He just thought I was being weird. Why is this guy sending me stories? So I'm going to do a volume 2.
Fantastic.
Not just to get those stories in, because I want the next one to be a little bit less stories from the past and more stories from the present, and just actually how I live now, my belief systems and stuff. Because I've got my foot in the door. Yeah. Now I feel like I may as well kind of like smash it open like a drugs rage.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the historical present tense. And I really find that personally, I find that really refreshing, because you pick up any memoir, autobiography, that, and sometimes it can be a bit, I guess, iodine. They're a bit just, people don't express exactly what's going on, but I really have a sense of just expressing how you feel about what happened at that point. And there's lots of humour going on throughout the book as well, which I think is just really, really great, I think, in terms of the stories.
The humour's probably not my Liverpool thing, but also it's like you're making a meal, and it's how much salt and pepper and spices and sugar goes in the thing. And I thought, if I'm going to stretch people's ideas about how musicians think, it wasn't premeditated. I just naturally went funny on to balance it out, and it is funny, they were hilarious times, the late 70s, early 80s, it actually was surreal. It was surreal. I mean, doesn't surprise me that Captain Beefheart was what everyone responded to. And I think that goes back. There's a sort of tradition there's a history in Liverpool of surrealism, and like Scousers don't really take themselves too seriously, and they don't take anyone else too seriously either, which is quite healthy, I think so. Yeah, it's just what came to me in the moment, really. And but I didn't have to, like, a few people have said to me, I don't know how you remember it all, but it went in deep. I was a very sensitive sort of young man, and so those slights and hurts I felt, and they went so deep. It's easy to access them. It's very easy to access them, and the minute you start, you're there and you start typing this, I'm in Plato's ballroom, this short-lived club, I'm back. I remember exactly how I felt. And so I just wrote it down. It wasn't really hard to recall. The hardest thing I find is trying to keep the language fresh and avoiding cliches. And also because I'm a lyricist, I think I really love syllable rhythm, rhythm in writing. So, but it wasn't that difficult to write. The difficulty I have is I am absolutely lacking in discipline, and I'll avoidance techniques, anything, I'll sit down at 8 a.m., start writing, and I'm like, well, I'll just have a cup of coffee. I'll just have some toast. Hang on, I just listen to this record, and then before I know it, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit hungry now. I am terrible, and I did drive Jawbone mad. I drove them mad because I was sending them stuff out of sequence, with. I mean, they won't mind me saying, but I actually got a kind of message telling me they were going to rip up my contract if I didn't let them have the manuscript in 2 days' time.
Yeah.
And I still didn't do it.
Well, it all ended well, I guess.
Yeah.
Just I mean, you're talking about Liverpool there, and particularly around that point in time when, it is post-punk, the late 70s, early 80s, some really, really big characters came out of that scene, and you look back on it now and you think, they really defined a bit of a landscape musically at that time. At that point, when you were going through all of that, there was obviously friends with the Bunnymen and starting off the Teardrops, etc. Was there a sense of a scene emerging in Liverpool? Bands setting up and actually could go on to, make an impact.
Yes, no. So Deaf School were a big band in Liverpool. Not so big outside of them. So they were kind of pre-punk, just pre-punks like 75, 76. Yeah. And we all adored them. They kind of dressed like they were kind of Hollywood, sort of pastiches of Hollywood film stars and stuff. And there was a sort of music hall-y kind of thing to them. But they no matter how tiny the gig, like, I saw them at parties and things, they gave it everything as if they were playing it, at a big venue. And so that was hugely influential to us. And but I don't think anyone knows they're part of a scene until it's over. And it was only really when Eric's was closed down by the police that we realized what we'd had and what we'd achieved. And but you're right, I mean, huge characters, so much so that, like, in the Teardrops, when pre-Teardrops, we had a band called A Shallow Madness with Ian McCulloch was the singer. And Ian wasn't really turning up and stuff, so we ended up having to let him go. But at no point did anyone say, "So Mo, do you fancy having a go?" Because I was quiet, I was a shy guy, and I could have been if I'd have been a bit more forceful. But of course, Julian was a much stronger personality. We had Pete Wiley, stronger again, Pete Burns, stronger again, Holly Johnson, Bill Drummond, all of them big actors, as you say. But I think, I saw Eric's as my university, and I was learning little bits from all those people, becoming braver because of them, because Jane Casey was so outlandish for the time, and Holly was so outlandish. I got a bit braver, my confidence got up a bit, and I saw them getting up on stage and singing, with no prior experience, so. But it was remarkable. I mean, I think even remarkable in an age of remarkable scenes. Manchester had its thing, as did Glasgow. But I don't know whether there's the same hit rate of people from one club one small club.
Yeah.
It wasn't big, you know, and you know, there's more. I think more people went on to be in bands than didn't, you know, that went to that club. And yeah, but as I say, we didn't. I think I meant to say this in the book. You know, we didn't realize it, but we were the scene. There was no scene until we made it happen, because you know, in 1976, Liverpool was kind of like history. It was the Beatles. You know, no one wanted to know that, or it was portrayed in the media as kind of Boys from the Black Stuff, kind of car robbers, all those jokes, you know, that people still sometimes make about, you know,
stereotypical.
Yeah, you know, oh, we go to Liverpool, better lock your car up, you know, all that kind of stuff. Which is, of course, is changed now, and it's tough. It's a tough, as Glasgow is. It's a very tough city to grow up in, because you know, younger people, because you don't get quite so much. You don't get gangs as much as you did 17s. But you know, they think I'm joking when I say I'd go out to buy a pint of milk from my bedsit, and I'd have to fight my way back, because if you looked weird, you know, you were just a target. You had a big target on your back. And but I'll tell you a funny story that I think is in the book, but some of you people watching your podcast won't know, is that so the Wild Swans supported Echo and the Bunnymen in 1981, winter, that coldest winter for 100 years. And so we're playing the Glasgow Apollo, and we'd done the sound check. We were going out to find something to eat, and one of the bouncers said, I won't do the accent, and said, be careful, you know, Glasgow's a bit rough at times, you know. And we were like, fuck off, you know, we're from Liverpool, we're not frightened of anyone. 2 minutes later, I don't know whether you remember, outside Glasgow Apollo, there used to be a place called Mr. Chips Takeaway.
Yep.
It's quite a famous place, long gone, I think. We're standing outside Mr. Chips. That was 5 minutes after the bouncer said this, and we're laughing at him, you know, like, someone throws an entire armchair, not like, you know, a cafe chair, but like a proper chrome and leather armchair, quite nice, you know, like a mid-century design classic, through the window of Mr. Chips, but from the inside. We were just from the inside, and we were just covered in glass. So I never knew. We all jumped on the Bunnymen's coach. We were like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
So I'd love to know what that story was. Why that chair was in there anyway?
Yeah.
And why they would throw it through the plate glass windows. Anyway, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you talk about Glasgow there, and I think a little bit around the landscape, economically, politically, around about that time as well. You know, I do see a lot of comparisons between Liverpool and Glasgow at that time, and the impact that Thatcher had. You know, really desolate in parts, and you know, to an extent, other northern cities such as Manchester and Sheffield as well. And one of the things that does strike me from that was all that great music around that time, that, you know, really just rebelling against that, what's going on, because there's just a real lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. But in a way, it kind of worked for us, because what is mind blowing to people now is, you know, people younger than me, is that back in the late 70s, people didn't live in the city centre.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't really residential. Well, probably different up here because you've got your tenements here. But in Liverpool, no one lived in the city centre. It was just all vacant warehouses, boarded up shops. You know, we had Thatcher's managed decline of Liverpool. So everyone's signing on. You know, we were getting our 23 quid a week, or was it a fortnight? I can't remember. And but what it allowed us was, we had the time, you know, and we had cheap or free rehearsal spaces, because there were so many vacant buildings. We just had to, you know, jemmy open a line from a meter, or people started renting these places out. I mean, they were dangerous, really. You know what I mean? I remember climbing up and down ladders into one rehearsal.
Yeah.
You know, and but we had free time, you know, and we had our unemployment money that was supposed to go on food and rent, but of course it went Gang of Four singles and you know, me and Julian used to I think I mentioned this in the book as well. So we were so poor, even though I think Julian was a student at the time, so we still had some kind of grant or something. We would go there used to be a store in Liverpool called Lewis's, and in the basement they had this sort of European meat deli thing. And we'd go down there because we knew we could buy these Polish sausages that were at 15p each. It was like all we did. But we made friends with the women in there, and so they felt sorry for us, and they used to say, "Oh, you remind me of my son," you know. So before we went in, we used to scruffy our clothes up a bit more to make ourselves look really impoverished. And then the lovely women in there, they'd pick up these like Melton Mowbray pies and things, and smash the pie crusts and go, "Oh, that one's broken. You can have that for 10p," you know, just looking after us. But I used to have to steal my rent when I moved into the beds. It was £7.50 a week, and because no one wanted to live in the city centre, it was mad. Me and some old guys living in that place, and so I used to fiddle the electricity meter because I couldn't afford to be there otherwise. I'd steal all my toilet rolls and my bars of soap and cafes in town. I'd spend all my money on records and secondhand clothes, you know, from charity shops. And then when I got desperate, because I always loved my books, sometimes I'd see like some American import of some symbolist poet or something I'd seen Patti Smith raving about, you know, and I feel terrible about it. But I used to have a big long tweed overcoat that I gave to him, colour, but that made him famous. Well, apart from his talent, and I used to shoplift books that I just because I thought I couldn't live without them. I was burning for this information from another planet.
Yeah,
but I'm not proud of it now.
You touched on the jacket, but throughout the book as well, you talk about your style. You know, what you'd be buying in terms of clothes, or you know, and it's very much, I think, a kind of DIY approach in terms of what you know. That must have been great, but also I think because of the times as well, you no doubt come up with some resistance from certain types of people in terms of your look.
Oh, absolutely. I used to be followed by store detectives constantly, and I used to think I would see women with baby prams stuffing chickens under their babies' feet, right? The security guards following me, and I was thinking, he just thinks I'm like a tramp. You know, I think I look like some sort of, you know, French resistance guy, but he thinks I'm a tramp and I'm sleeping rough and I'm stealing food from Marks and Spencer's, you know, and but all, you know, I mean, that's the kind of funny side of it. But I was constantly getting in fights all the time because people just equated, I don't know what they thought, you know. Weirdly, Pete Burns, who was the most extremely dressed person of the times, he didn't really get any shit because, well, he was quite tough, Pete, actually.
Yeah.
You know, he was a bit scary. You know, I think he just looked like an alien. I mean, he would get some abuse, but he didn't. I don't think he quite got the violence that me and my band did. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, we gave as good as we got. You know, because don't judge a book by its covers. You know.
I think there's one story in the book you talk about. I think you're on a train. Is it with Les? from Bunnymen.
Pattinson from Wreck and the
Yeah.
Bunnymen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very early days. That was like early '77, and it was kind of slightly our own fault because we'd goaded we used to call them trogs. I don't know what you called them up here, like long hair kind of hard rock fans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'd got a bus into town to go to Eric's, and they'd been giving us shouting down at us from the top deck, and we were telling them, F off, granddad, and all that, and it was a bad night at Eric's. We got a last train home, and then these same guys got on, and they just set about us. They were drunk and set about us, but we were victorious. I don't know how that happened actually.
Yeah.
I mean, God's a punk, and you looked after him.
Absolutely. One of the things you do talk about in the book's your relationship with your mum and dad, which you talk about, I think, in two different ways for both your mum and your dad. Did you find that quite cathartic in terms of just getting that out and putting it on, paper? Because I know also your album Death Must Be Beautiful was very much in a relationship with your dad as well.
Well, that album was written in a time of grief, because I was surprised at the grief I felt when my dad died, because it was far closer to my mum. But my dad's death hit me harder, and I was trying to unpack why that was, and I think it's because it was never resolved. You always think, if you've got a bad relationship with a parent, you always think it'll resolve before they die. They'll resolve it if you don't, but of course it never happened. But yeah, no, I did find it cathartic, and I hadn't really analyzed it, hadn't thought about it, but in writing it down, I realized that it was all about polarization. Both my parents were working class. My dad actually was raised in an orphanage. My mum was one of 5 kids, all in one bed, kind of in Anfield in Liverpool. Quite a tough. Again, without their father left when they were little, so it was just a mum. So both working class, but my dad was that horrible thing. He was like a working class conservative. He literally used to stand up when, they used to play the national anthem.
Yes.
When the team, in the 60s, when the television, when the off signal came at midnight, he honestly would stand up and but my mom was staunch Labour voter, lifelong Labour voter. She was a kind of, although she'd worked. My dad was in the Merchant Navy, so he was away a lot, which actually was quite good as it was for our relationship. So she was a hippie. She was a proto hippie. She was too old to be a hippie, but she was a hippie. She was into New Age, creativity, painting, abstract painting.
Yeah.
Very open-minded. My dad was, really kind of. My dad used to say to me every night when he got in, "What have you done for society today?" And it wasn't a joke. You would expect me to say, "Oh, sorry, Father, I've mown the lawn," and I was just like, well, I don't know what you're on about, And so my mum was giving me, "Your potential is limitless," and my dad's giving me, "You'll never amount to anything." So it was quite a weird. Of course, I sort of tuned my dad's signal out and only listened to my mum, but it wears on you that. If someone keeps telling you that you're not worth anything, you'll never amount to anything, and that nothing you do is ever good enough. As an example of my dad, which I don't think's in the book, but I must remember to put it in the next. So I think when I was working with Ian Broudie, we just recorded this song called "Flaming Swords" that went on to become a bit of a minor hit in the UK.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's still just a white label. And I take it home because my mum's all excited, going, "Oh, let's listen to it," So I put it on their record player, and I think we've got halfway through the first verse, and my dad walks over, takes it off, takes the record off, and puts another one on, and said, "Oh, listen to this. This is really good." And it's "Wonderful Life" by Black.
Right.
He's bought it. He's heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
He's bought it. Well, what he wouldn't know is that Colin Byrne come from back is from Liverpool.
Yeah.
But he also wouldn't know that me and him didn't actually get on very well, me and Colin Byrne, only because I'd been introduced to him by Jane Casey had introduced me to him one night, and he wasn't very nice. She said, "Oh, Paul's and Colin Byrne come in." Colin said, "Oh, swans, nasty, vicious creatures." And I just thought, wow, that's a bit of a weird introductory. So my own father taking it off without listening to it and playing me something by someone else from my circle, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Steaming, you know.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, the last couple of years, the release of Death Must Be Beautiful came out in 2022. Thinking, you know, revolutionary spirit, the song. I think one of the coolest T-shirts came out last year via One of 100. It's also, I think, the title of the Cherry Red 5 CD compilation.
That's right.
Liverpool Merseyside music, which is fantastic. And I think you touched on it at the very start, which just like you to talk a little bit, is Grant McPhee's upcoming documentary. So, which I think will tap into a lot of the music that's went on and a lot of the stories that people don't know from the Liverpool scene around that time.
Grant got in touch with me years ago, about three years ago, proposing this, and I asked him. I said, "Why me? Why have you come to me and not Julian Cope or Ian McCulloch?" And he said, "Because we already know their stories." And he said, "The best stories come from the peripheral characters and the peripheries." And he said, "That's why we spoke to Davy Henderson for the Bill Dream." And you know, because you know it was a fresh voice with a different camera angle on the whole thing. Anyway, so when he started it, it was a tiny little project. It was going to be about the Wild Swans and maybe a bit of Zoo Records, because I think he liked the underdog thing. You know, he came down to Liverpool and he filmed the. And then I introduced him to a few other peripheral characters like Yorkie, who was sort of friend of the Teardrops, who he ended up playing bass in space and so on. And it went out in these sort of concentric circles, got bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where, understandably, Grant wants it to be as big as it can be. Really, he wants so I think he's looking, and he might have secured funding now. So it's now 2 films. The first one's Pool of Life, which is about, which was it's about the young stream. About a magnolia tree there in Liverpool, this energy portal, and it's about pre Liverpool, so it goes right back to the sort of beat poets and stuff, the Mersey poets, and Ginsberg coming to Liverpool, all that kind of stuff. And then the revolutionary spirit film is probably starts with around Deaf School 74, 75. 76, and he's unearthed some amazing footage of street festivals in Liverpool, and he's just getting them processed now. And what's astonishing is, even though this was pre-punk and pre-Eric's, we're all there in the audience.
Really? Right.
Yeah, you know, he's trying to find us all, because you know Jane Casey was there and Bill Drummond was there, but none of us knew each other at this point. Broudie's there, I'm there, you know, Pete Wiley's there. So it looks like it's going to be fascinating. He's found the only footage available of the Wild Swans Mark 1 on tour with the Bunnymen, and it's great. It's only short, but it's fantastic. Yeah, because it was a magical time. The Bunnymen were on at their peak, in my opinion, on that. It was the Heaven Up Here kind of tour.
Yeah.
Went on to make great records afterwards, but just it was when they were new and fresh, and it was just energy. They didn't have much money still. It hadn't, nothing had changed, you know. It's still just young men kind of thing. So they watched them every night on stage, and they would watch us as well. watch our set, we were feeding off how their energy and how good they were, and they made us up their game. So Grant's got this great footage with great sound.
That'll be amazing to see.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of it, but he's constantly finding more stuff. And as people are coming out the woodwork, there's a guy in Liverpool called Chris Bernard, who's a sort of filmmaker, and he's, when he heard about it, he's just gone, oh, I think I've got film of, the sausages from Mars. Well, the sausages from Mars were Jane Casey and Holly Johnson. Two-piece little band, or I've got footage of obscure bands that Julie's in for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The Nova Mob, and so it should be really fantastic when it's done. It might be getting a little bit big for me. He's sort of gone a bit broad, but understandably, he's trying to get funding. He's looking at Netflix and or cinema release. He's got to, he's a filmmaker. He can't tread water wherever he wants to.
Yeah, no, I mean the two films he did on the kind of Glasgow / Scottish scene were absolutely fantastic. And he's actually done quite a bit into creative as well, writing some articles. So we're pretty close to Grant. He's put the occasional tidbit out there on social media and Twitter. So you're seeing some of that. It's like, can't wait for this. So
we did. My book launch was at Waltham, Rock and Roll Book Club with Bill Drummond recently in December, and we gave us 20-minute like hyper trailer as our support act.
Okay, right, really?
And, it was great, and the audience just couldn't believe it because it was really good. It was Grant's editor Angela Slavin had put it together, and it's so good because Will Sargent's quotes are just priceless, and so people are in hysterics. So it bodes well for the finished film,
Look forward to it. And speaking of Will, I believe have you got a Liverpool book launch that Will will be interviewing you?
I think it's the 27th of this month. So I'm flying over to Dublin because my partner's there at the moment. And then I'm going to fly straight into Liverpool, do that, and fly out again, like a real person, like who's got an interest in life, So that'll be great because of course you and I met at school when we were like 13 or 14. And we were both carrying albums under our arm. That's how we met because I'm older than you, I know that, but that was a thing back then.
Yeah.
You'd carry,
absolutely.
You'd spend ages choosing the album on the top,
Yeah.
But he's lovely. Will's been a supporter of mine and the Wild Swans all the way through. No matter how big they get. Like Will often ring me, and we're on for like an hour and a half. And we don't talk about musical. He's talking about, how he's converting his shed, or I've bought you some black-eyed peas off Ormskirk Market, and he tells me how to cook them and all this, So we've been on about an hour and a half, and then he says, "Oh, I better go. I've got to take the dogs for a walk." And I say, "Oh yeah, and what's going on with the band?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we played in Brazil 2 nights ago to like 7,050 people or something. Oh, it's set more, 25,000 people." And I'm like, wow. We're so untouched by ego. You know what I mean? He's exactly the same as he was the day I met him. He's so down to earth. He wouldn't have thought to mention it to me unless I'd asked.
Yeah. He was in Glasgow with the last book launch.
That's right.
Echoes. I think must have been about November time.
That's right.
Great. Really down to earth, and again some fantastic stories. And I suppose you're in Glasgow now. Have you been meeting many of your, let's call them, contemporary musicians? Meeting a few.
I sort of I met. Who did I meet first? I think I went into music from Big Blue and Hidden Lane. Ian Smith from last night.
The record store.
I went in there and I introduced myself to Ian, and So he sit behind the computer, and he's got a completely blank face. And I said, "Oh, hi, yeah, I just want to say hello. I've just moved up here. My name's Paul Simpson from the Wild Swans." Nothing at all. But okay. Yeah, I used to be in the Teardrops Explode. Nothing at all. So, I was in a band with Ian Broudie for a while. And he went, "I knew who you were when you walked in." It's like, "You bastard," you know. Anyway, so if there's going to be a new Wild Swans album, which there is, it's going to be on Last Night from Glasgow. So anyway, so through Ian, I think I met Chris Thompson, the Bathers, the Friends again. Well, that was lovely because in the late 80s, 90s, I was so damaged by what had happened to me in the music industry. I wasn't buying records, I wasn't listening to records, and or if I was, it was like bubblegum pop, or you know, I wasn't interested in what was going on. But one record I bought was Friends Again, Captain Unwrapped.
Yeah.
So I really loved that. And so it was a joy meeting him, and of course the Bathers later on, one of my favorite things, you know. And then Chris introduced me to Graham Snare.
Yeah.
And then of course Bobby Bluebell.
Yeah.
I think because we're friends, he's friends with Ian McCulloch and some of the Liverpool crowd. So I think Bobby saw I'd moved to Glasgow on Twitter, so he just messaged me with pub ? And I went, yeah, when? And he went, now ? And so we've been pub buddies for a while, you know.
Good. Yeah.
And you know, all that, you know, also Douglas McIntyre and yeah, all that mob really. So it's great because we're you know, I'm probably a tad older than those guys, but we've all got the same reference points. They know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about What the Hooples, kind of the weird track on the 4th album. They know what I'm talking about. Whereas, you know, so that's nice. Like a shorthand, you know. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I was going to ask you what next for Paul Simpson. So you did mention potentially a new album then. So is that when can we expect that?
Well, I'm a great one at over-promising things. I'm terrible for it. I've got to stop doing it. I think it'll be very early next year. It won't be this year, even though all the music's already been recorded. It was recorded in 2019 at Christmas, and I didn't get the vocals done. All the music's done. I didn't get any vocals done because COVID happened. The studio, when lockdown ended, the studio had closed. I didn't even know where my masters were. So it's taken a bit of unraveling. So I just need to get in the studio and sing, which is takes some preparation. It sounds mad. But I got my lungs got damaged I went to Sri Lanka for reasons I won't go into in 2000 and what was it, 2012 or something like that. And I got parasite through the sole of my foot, and I've got sort of malaria-like symptoms. So if I want to sing, I have to really train. I have to go to the gym. I have to run, all that. And at my age, that's like quite a big deal. It's not like it was 10 years ago. So so. If anyone's read the book, they'll know. Like I've got I'm big in the Philippines. Got a following in the Philippines.
Yep.
So to go to the Philippines 3 years ago, I had to train for kind of 5 months just to sing normally, like anyone would normally. So it's a bit more than just booking the studio at the weekend.
Yeah.
And also because
you've got to plan it.
Yeah, and because the book has taken focus at the moment, and I need to chase that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I need to pursue that because music's never been a very lucrative for me, apart from 2 years in the mid 80s, because all my back catalogue's deleted right now, apart from an EP and Death Must Be Beautiful, which again took 20 years before it got released. That's all that's available to me. They're not big radio play records, so that's my only income really. So I'm going to pursue the book for a few months, probably two. Try and get the vocals done. And Ian from last night from Glasgow said, "Look, it won't be coming out this year anyway, Paul, because this year's all about young with new Glasgow bands. Next year's all you old fuckers, you know." So, but probably very early next year. We might put out some singles.
Yeah, just
this year.
Tease it a bit.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, that's great news. Final question. So this is more from you as a fan of music. So thinking back to all the gigs and concerts that you've attended as a fan, which, if you had to pick one as a standout, what act would it be and why?
Oh man, I could give you about 10 answers for this.
Yeah, only need one. Put you in the spot now.
Okay, it would be Glasgow. It'd be Alex Harvey. I saw Alex Harvey twice in the 70s. I think 74 and 75. Not because I don't think I even knew who Alex Harvey was. I think he was a support act the first time I saw him, and I was just like, oh my God, you know, it was so theatrical. So he just commandeered that stage. Yeah. And then I went, I think the year is probably next tour, and then The Impossible Dream came out, and I paid to see that one as the headliner.
Right. Yeah.
But just for like, you know, it was a sort of foreshadowing of punk. I mean, even looked that way, didn't he, with the stripy t-shirt?
With the stripy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the aggression and amazing. You know?
Yeah, just absolute star. No, you're right. So thanks, Paul. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for thinking of me, because I am a bit of a. I know the book's raised my profile a little bit, but I have been a peripheral character for so long. I really appreciate it when people like you reach out to me and are interested enough to offer me this platform, because other people have controlled the Liverpool narrative and my narrative for so long. When I get a chance, I'll jump on it. You know,
absolutely. I think it's as I said, the book's fantastic, and
thank you.
For anyone that's not read it, then it should be top of the list as far as I'm concerned. And all the best for 2024, and hopefully we'll see some new music at some point.
Yeah, you too, and thanks for the great questions. It's better than some of the nonsense I get asked.
We do try.
Yeah.
Thanks.